welcome back. Thanks for tuning in to the SheRo Game Podcast.
I am Sheila, the She and SheRo.
And I am Ronna Renee, the Ro and SheRo. And today we are going to talk about the 80-20 rule. Doesn't really exist. Let's get into this for real.
Yes, for real.
So let's know, I personally drew the inspiration from Tyler Perry's Why Did I Get Married To?
Mm-hmm.
When Jill Scott's character was like, go over there with Trina, you're 20. So, and we all, most of us know how that played out, right? That was like a classic example of the grass is not greener on the other side, right?
Exactly.
And I think we said it's because it's turf, so it
Right.
requires no maintenance.
No maintenance.
You don't have to water it. You don't have to do nothing. But you get what you give to it, right?
Exactly.
So we talked about how do we even come up with this 80-20? Like, how do we even establish what that is? And I think we deciphered that it's a list. You come up with a list.
I mean, and we talked about this, Ro. For me, it's not a literal list for me. Like,
Right.
I have in my mind what it is that I like to call non-negotiables.
Mm-hmm.
So there's certain things that I just will not compromise in a relationship, period. But then there's all these other things that I would like to have.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's these other things that I like to call them negotiables, where it's like, I would prefer that, but if it's not there, it's not a deal breaker.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think it's important to know for yourself what things you're okay with potentially compromising, because nobody's perfect. Like, if you out there in the world and you meet 100% of your list, send me your prayer, because I already got Sierra's. So, you know what I mean? So, expecting 100% of what you desire in another person is, in my opinion, an unrealistic expectation.
Mm-hmm.
So, for me, the 80-20 rule is somewhat metaphorical.
Absolutely.
It's a strong majority of what it is that you want in another person, and you just letting go of that 20% that you may not get. We've also talked a lot about how, I think you mentioned, what if the 20% that a person might have is something that's a non-negotiable? But for me, those are two totally different lists.
Okay, so before you go any further, I want to go to what is if 80% is the maximum practical amount of non-negotiables and desires and preferences that we get, right? On a sliding scale or on a curve system. What is the absolute lowest number that we're willing to go to where you feel like you're not compromising what it is that you know you deserve or that you want? Right?
That's an interesting
question. Remember I said there was a person I talked to who said that find somebody that's got 60% of what you want, work on the rest. And I was like, listen, 60% is not enough. Mm-hmm. I'm willing to go to 70 because at least that's a passing grade. But 60 is too close to failing to me. And I feel like we already have to meet in the middle with 50-50. But what does your 50%, how much weight does it hold? Because your 50% can't be 30%. It's got to be at least 70. And then I think the 30% we can work to. I don't think we'll ever get to 100%. That's not even possible unless we're in a perfect world, right? Mm-hmm. But if we have at least 70 to 80%, I think that's a good range, right? Yeah. But back to what you were saying about, okay, so this is how I formed the question. You have 80%. And say we have a physical list, guys, right? So you have your non-negotiables at the top. Mm-hmm. And then as you go down the list, you start to get into preferences, right? Things that you could kind of do without, but you would prefer they be this way or that way. But what if you are with a person, this is me playing devil's advocate, what if you're with a person who has 80% of your preferences, but your top 20% of non-negotiables, they don't have 20% of those, right? So we'll say the 80% is equal to 100. That 20% of non-negotiables is where the grass is supposed to be greener on the other side. So which one weighs more? The fact that the 20% has all of your non-negotiables and maybe very little or none of your preferences, or you have a bigger or a longer list here with some non-negotiables and more preferences. And I think
there's a lot of math going on in this question, Ron.
I hope that makes sense to y'all.
I'm gonna take it back to my metaphorical
math is
perspective.
not my strong suit.
I'm gonna take it back to my metaphorical perspective, and for me, I feel like it's quality over quantity. Okay. So for me, I feel like the list needs to be weighted. So like the things at the top of your list weigh more in that 80%. Mm-hmm. So when you get to the bottom, you're talking about some 2 and 3 percenters. Whereas up here, you got your this is 15 for me, 20%. You know, so you missing 1, 2, it's a wrap already. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, I still think that your non-negotiables have to be taken into account separately.
True.
If there's something that you just absolutely will not deal with,
tolerating it,
then you can't tolerate it. Mm-hmm. Like I gave an extreme example when we were having the conversation. It's just an extreme example. Mm-hmm. If a man puts his hands on you and you're like, that's just, I would never be in a relationship with a man that puts his hands on me. You don't give him a pass just because he did it one time and the whole rest of your list is mad. Like, no, you put your hands on me, it's a wrap. Yeah. I can't do anything with you. So for me, if it's a non-negotiable, it's just that. It could literally be the only thing that's missing from your list, and it's a no-go for me.
Deal breaker.
It's fluid. It's we grow and change. Maybe through experiences and things like that. And I know when we were having a conversation one time and we were talking about this with a gentleman, he had talked about how he felt like women, I know I'm going to articulate it wrong, tend to settle or give up on too much of their things.
We do.
I think we do, but I think where he was in particular going with it was more so along the lines of just the differences between what women value versus what men value, because your list is going to be a representation of what you value. So one of the things that he mentioned was something about looks. Like he feels like we give up on looks, like for money, for example. Well, to me, that is a reflection of...
You ain't got to be Rico Suave, but if you go stand next to me, you better be coming with something. I mean, okay.
Really, Ron, just throw me for a loop with that one.
I'm just saying, everybody has a level of superficial in them to some extent.
Agree.
Again, I don't have to be standing next to Rico Suave. I feel like I'm fine enough for the both of us if we're gonna keep it funky.
Okay.
But no, I'm just joking. But what I'm saying is, I think that you still gotta be attracted to the person.
Oh yeah, there has to be some attraction.
You gotta feel like because it eventually obviously looks fake, yada yada yada. And by that time, you've already so much invested in the person that their looks really don't matter to you as much. But I think the initial attraction has to be there, so it can't just fall by the wayside. Like, well, he not that attractive, but he feed me all the time.
I'm gonna respectfully disagree with you, and this is why. I feel like us as women, we're more emotional generally.
Yeah.
Men are just flat out physical. Either she fine or she ain't. And 10 years in, if she wasn't fine when I met her, she still ain't fine. This is how we are. We be like, oh, this is us in the club. He all right. He a 4 or 5. Then when he start calling your phone and picking you up and bringing you flowers, and all of a sudden he's fine. Yeah. How he get fine all of a sudden? He was a 4 in the club. That's because we see with because even me on the flip side, there are men like when I was in high school, might be captain of the football team. Mm-hmm. Everybody know they fine, and then you have a conversation with him. He's either stupid or he's so cocky. It's a turn off for me to the point where I'm literally like, I can't even
forget it
out of my mouth call him attractive anymore because his personality just takes away from me. But men are not that way. If she fine, I don't care how dumb she is.
I don't know.
They separate the two.
But
they might not be attracted to a dummy, but they not gonna take away that she fine.
Okay.
She fine.
But do what with her?
I'm gonna knock her socks off.
And what pinnacle do they deal with her though? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, but I'm just talking about purely attraction. So your list where you're like, he gotta be fine. He gonna be fine once he get in that head. That's my point. So we ain't worried about that. But for me, I still feel like we're more emotional. So like it's a reflection of our value proposition. Maybe we value stability more than looks. Whereas a man who is rich, for example, he want a dime piece on his arm. He don't care if she ain't got a pot to piss in.
True.
She ain't got nothing to bring to the table. You fine? Or I'm going to send you to Miami to get fine? We good, So I'm not to say that men are that shallow, but they can be. But not to say that they are, but just saying that I think it's a reflection of their value proposition.
But that goes into like you knowing what you need versus what you prefer.
Yes.
So I think it depends on what type of relationship are you gunning for. Are we talking about a casual thing? Are we talking about something with longevity and commitment? Because I think that the criteria changes a little bit.
Well, do we have criteria for casual relationships beyond physical attraction?
Yeah, because you could be fine, but if I can't sit at dinner with you and have an intellectual conversation, I'm immediately checked out. And then I'm probably just gonna not be interested.
I didn't realize men took their casual relationships out to dinner. So
maybe that's just me. I feel like I've had casual relationships where there's still some casual, element of dating.
Someone. When you say casual, are you talking about just a platonic relationship, or are you talking about a just sex friends with benefits relationship?
It could be a friends with benefits, but I still get dates and things of that, even though it's casual and there's no commitment there. But that's just
no intention for commitment. You're dating and having sex and doing all these other things. No,
because
no intention for
because the intention isn't present because I know that it can't go beyond further than this. But that doesn't mean that you treat me less because there's no longevity or commitment down the pipeline. I still want to be treated like a lady. I still want you to open my door. I still want you to take me places because I want to still, at some place, I still want to spend time with you because even if it's casual, I have to have some connection to you. That's me personally. I have to have some connection with you in order for me to sleep with you.
Well, see, I don't like the casual thing. We'll talk about that. That's a whole nother topic. I don't like to do the casual thing.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a minute.
We'll talk about that in a
minute. But going back to your needs versus what your preferences are, right? So we kind of have a good idea of, what we need, right? Mm-hmm. And then we have things that we know we prefer. Sometimes those things are superficial. Sometimes they're not. Okay. Like a need is I need him to be educated because that kind of flows into his decision making, how responsible he is. And it doesn't necessarily mean textbook educated, but just educated in his own right of whatever it is. So it could just be his experiences. It could be he's self-taught. It could be he did go to school and get a degree for something. But I think he has to have some kind of merit in an intellectual capacity. Whereas a preference is he got to be 6'5". But you know what I'm saying? Or he has to know how to cook. But you can have two people that neither one of them know how to cook, but because neither one of them know how to cook, they don't mind spending money on food because
or chef or whatever.
Or nobody's eating. So
or cooking
we gotta figure, exactly.
So they figure it out. I agree with that. So going back to the initial question, well, I don't even know if we asked it. Do you believe that the 80-20 rule is real? Like, do you think?
Maybe not 80-20, maybe 70-30. Okay. But I definitely think that whatever the percentage is, I think that people have to feel like majority, or at least in this day in society, half of their desires or their non-negotiables are met. And they change as you get older. Sometimes they change day to day. Sometimes they change week to week. It just depends. But I think that people have a concrete core, even if it's just 5 things. So you can make 100% off of 5 things and get 3 of those and still be in good shape. So I think it does exist to the notion of it.
Right.
It exists because how else do we measure the value of a relationship if we don't quantify what the quality of the relationship is?
Exactly. I think, because again, for me, I don't know that I've ever wrote down a list of the things that I wanted in a significant other, but I definitely have this thing in my mind where I'm like, this absolutely can't fly. And then I have these things where it's like, I would prefer this, but I'm willing to work with someone if they meet all of these other things, but this isn't there, then I'm willing to have the conversation. And then there's some things that honestly, I didn't know to add to a list or to put on my demerit list
or until I
or
elaborate on too.
Had experiences that showed me like, Sheila, don't forget to add this to your list because or Sheila, don't forget you need to put this on the list of things you won't tolerate. It's like life and experience helps shape those decisions.
Yeah, I agree. We were having this conversation with someone and he said that the capacity of a person to perform can change day to day or week to week. And I felt that because I'm like, wow, nobody's ever 100%. You might get close 95%, but you normally aren't that days in a row or weeks in a row, no matter what you do, because life just doesn't work that way. But I think the effort behind trying to strive to be the best version of yourself at that point in time and connecting and communicating with your partner that way kind of will outweigh your shortcomings in those periods of times where you're the best version of yourself, whether it be you're going through something emotional, you're having something mental that's bothering you, or you're just having stress or just trying to navigate, trying to be organized. That stuff, like for some people, it overwhelms them. You know, people can't function in chaos, or they can't function when, you know, they're feeling like there's a rift between them and their partner. So there's emotional pulls and ties that are constantly at the forefront of their mind, and it doesn't allow them to be at their peak because they're still processing how to get back to, you know, that 100% or that bigger percentage of goodness with the person that they're dealing with, or things that may be a part of their lives.
Agree. I definitely think it's an unrealistic expectation to expect people to be able to perform at their 100% best every single day. I do think it's important that consistency is established. So, you know, if you're showing me that you're a certain type of person and you possess a certain type of quality, it's going to be what you repeatedly show me that you're doing consistently. Yes, you're going to have a bad day.
Yes.
You may even have a bad week. But if you're having valleys and peaks, then we got a problem. Because now it's which version of you is who you really are. Because now I'm almost getting just as much as that other person as I am of who I thought you were. So I think consistency is absolutely important. But yes, give people space to be human. We all are human. We all have bad days. We all call off work sometimes. You know what I mean? Like it's everybody can't perform at 100%. Nobody can perform at 100% all of the time.
Yeah.
So with that, what is your game piece?
My game piece is let your 80-20 or your 70-30 or even your 50-50, however you want to split it, be whatever it is that's most truly unique to you and what you feel like you deserve or you desire. Don't allow somebody else's influence to influence you to do something that is not authentic to you.
Okay. And my game piece for today is going to be very cautious about negotiating your non-negotiables. Don't get caught up in the romanticism and the love and start accepting things that you know with the clear head you would never accept. And I think that's it.
Yeah, that was
Don't compromise your non-negotiables.
Don't ever compromise. Don't ever compromise.
So with that, Sheila, the She and SheRo.
And I'm Rhonda Renee, the Ro and SheRo. Thank you guys so much for joining us, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye. We're out.